Cool. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Doggy Experts Live. I'm here with Jessica, and we are awaiting another one of our team members' arrival here in just a moment. You all know who he is. George will be here in just a minute, and we're going to dive into things. Hey, guess what? I did not come up with an intro question this week. So I would love to just kind of hear from some of our viewers here about how life is with their dog this week. Give us a little check-in. Tell us about something that you've done with your dog. We'd love to hear how you're doing with your dogs at home. And there's George.
Hey,
and George is here. Welcome, George.
How's it going?
I'm good. Are you dry?
Waiting.
Are you
What's
dry?
that?
Are you dry?
No, it's pouring. So,
Yeah.
But I am in the truck, so I'm technically dry, but I've got wet getting here.
There you go. Well, we're just getting started here, waiting for a few people to jump on in here. We were just asking for a check-in from everybody on what they've been doing with their dog this past week. How is life with your dog?
Practicing.
What's that?
I said they better be practicing. That's what
Better
I
be
got to
practicing. Yeah, well, maybe or not. If they haven't trained their dog yet, then Here's one that we had come in here. We'll just go ahead and jump on this here. Jennifer was asking, hello, I was wondering how COVID is impacting dogs and puppies. My 6-month-old is having difficulty with people when in the house or walking by. Yeah, that's I'm glad that you brought that up here. We'll definitely get that answered for you here. I know that there's quite a few people in this situation, Jennifer. In fact, I'm working with somebody right now who they've got about a 5.5-month-old dog, I believe, and they're in the same boat. The dog, they sit on their porch. When people walk by the house, the dog explosively reacts to anybody coming by. And they're really struggling because ultimately the dog is hearing people come before they can even see the person coming. And so it really hasn't put them in a good position to be able to be successful because they're always in a reactive state. The dog's always beating them to the punch. And, a lot of learning to deal with these types of things is really learning how to be extraordinarily proactive in how it is that you just handle and deal with your dog on a regular basis. That being said, you've got to, ultimately set the dog up for success, not put them in situations where that they're going to fail. Find situations that you think that they can be successful because you've got the time, you've got the right scenario set up, and you can train and practice what type of behavior you want to see from your dog in that situation, using obedience that hopefully that dog has learned. And through doing that, it allows us to gradually put more pressure on the dog and have people, maybe come up and greet the dog. But right now, I would tell you that one of the biggest mistakes that I'm seeing is with the dogs that are under socialized is they're, now that people are getting out and about and they're taking their dogs out, they're trying to force these interactions. They're trying to take their dog and say, hey, you need to socialize now. And it's becoming a forced thing, which is the absolute opposite of what it is that we want. I really encourage people, and when you have a dog like this, tell your guests, put a sign on the door, do not look at, talk to, or touch. I'm training my dog. Be really clear with them. Let them know what you need. You got to be your dog's ambassador and really make sure that you don't have people who are going, oh, I love dogs, I'm great with dogs, messing up your dog or making it more difficult for you to work through that. So I hope that's helpful. I don't know, George, Jessica, do either of you want to add anything to that? I think that's a great topic here. Thank you for that.
I have this old saying that I teach people about overexposure of the dogs. You don't take a drunk to a bar and then try to convince him to stop drinking. You have to get him sober first. So, don't dump that dog into something where he's totally into reactive mode, because then all you're doing is fighting and getting him out. You're not doing any teaching. So you bring him in there, you get him obedient, get some obedience on him, then use the obedience to help the dog be calm in those scenarios so they can learn that it's not always a party or a fight for that matter.
All right. No, I agree completely. You guys nailed it.
Yeah. The only other thing that I would maybe add is, that the obedience is going to be one part of this, but really you want to recognize that it's going to take some time. This is not something that's going to change quickly. It's not going to change overnight. And it's going to require you really making a lot of changes to everything that you're doing. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to prepare you for what can be a challenging situation to deal with. The fact that your dog is very young right now is I'm very, very happy to hear that you have a young dog. The fact that your dog's a 6-month-old pup, I think that there's a great likelihood that if you work really hard at this and if you have everybody in your family rowing with you in the same direction, that you can absolutely, help this dog to be less concerned. And I like to under promise and hopefully over deliver. I have seen people with dogs like this get them to become very social, but it really requires your being very, very on top of things just to keep it simple. So, Jennifer, I hope you found that helpful here. George, you just finished up at the building. How was work this evening?
Oh, always busy. They just keep me slamming along there. So all my classes or my lessons went well today. I did a couple of evals, some nice pups.
Cool.
Happy customers going home in the rain. It got all biblical here for a little while. And, it's slowing down now. It's still wet. But, so I had to rush right out of my lesson. I literally said goodbye, how you doing, fired up the phone, and there was Jess with the link. So.
All right. Awesome. Well, Jess, how are things for you today? You were pretty busy today too. I know that.
Yeah, it was actually
messing around with a little chocolate lab.
I don't know. Do you remember Roxy Sakala?
Do I remember Roxy?
Do you remember her?
So I did, and I was just like, that dog was really well trained, and I was like, why is that Jessica's dog? Did she get a dog that I didn't know about? And then I realized, no, she didn't get a dog. That's a client's dog. But I'm like, why would it be here for board and train if she's so good? And then I just couldn't put it together. But now that you're saying who it is,
yeah. So I received an email from the owners yesterday saying that she was going to be lodging at DogiZone, and one of the consistent things that we have with Roxy is that she always signs up for refresher training sessions. Now, Andrew, we first met Roxy back in April of 2016. That's when we did her initial camp program. She was 6.5 months old, and every single time she lodges at the facility, probably at least 2, maybe 3 times a year, she signs up for refresher training sessions. Now, this week in particular, the facility is so booked with camp training dogs. We're out the eyeballs with them, and I couldn't say no to Roxy's owners. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna take a big one for the team. And I said, nothing is going to make me more elated and happy than to have that refresher session with Roxy today. So I had to do it. I had to. It was good. I had to dust off a certain leash. But otherwise, I will say the first 2 appointments that I had this morning were families that we did training with at least 3 or 4 years ago. Who have just recently gotten new puppies. And both clients this morning said, and it's a good testament because George ended up training one of the dogs, that the training worked so beautifully with their previous dogs that they currently have, that when they got the new puppies, they said, I called immediately, I scheduled an evaluation, and it was a great testament to, retention with our families, and to be able to come back and enjoy training with a second and even a third dog.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's dive into things here. We got a few questions to roll through. Of course, if you all have questions, please throw them into the chat bar, and we will certainly get them for you here. First one that we had was, and Darlene, thank you for submitting a question. We'll get that here in just a second. My dog destroys all of his toys. What should I do? So I figured this was a good question. I'm curious if you could just type into the comments or, give us a like if your dog destroys toys. I'm just curious how many people have dogs that destroy their toys. And what I think would be funny is to know what people's their dog toy budget is each month, or, toys that get destroyed. Because I know that there's some people that are making like monthly trips to the store. Darlene said yes. I'm not sure if that yes, Darlene, was to the destroying of the toys or if that was to us answering your question, but we appreciate it. So in talking about toys, I'd like to just kind of, throw a couple things in here. And then I think what would be great is to I know both George and Jess, you guys have, had dogs a long time and used a lot of different toys with your own dogs. We can talk about some of the different types of toys and what makes sense and what doesn't. One of the things that you can actually do is teach your dog how to properly chew a toy. Some people think that, oh, my dog's always just going to destroy toys. And yes, that could be a problem, of course, if you're not using the proper toy for the proper type of activity. And we can get a little bit more into that. But what I've always done with my dogs is I know that there's pretty much two different ways that dogs destroy toys. One is by picking at it with their front teeth. Where they get their front teeth and they just get that little edge or that corner or whatever the case may be, and they just go to town, nip and pick away at it. That is a very common way. The other common way is to see dogs scissor biting it. So they're getting it real far back into their jaw and they're just chomping away on it, right? Those are the two most destructive ways that dogs destroy their toys. And so what you want to do is you ultimately, when you recognize that type of behavior, you see your dog, you gave them a toy, they start picking at it or they start scissor biting it, you're going to remove the toy from them. The toy is going to go away. And what will start to happen over time is they'll recognize that the action of scissor biting or the action of picking causes the toy to go away. Now, again, we got to make sure that we have the proper toy for the proper activity. So let's talk a little bit about the proper toy for the proper activity. There's a lot of different activities, obviously, to do with your dog. And, some dogs are real heavy chewers. And so you want to actually have a chew toy versus a retrieving toy versus a tug toy. All of these toys have different uses to them. Either one of you, Jeff, maybe you can go first here. We want to just talk a little bit about, what toys are you typically recommending for what types of activities?
Well, let's start off because there's so many toys in like a PetSmart store, or we carry a bunch, but we tend to carry stuff we kind of approve of. So the types of toys you're dealing with, you have chew toys and you have interactive play toys. Okay? A chew toy is simply a toy that the pup or the dog cannot take a physical piece from. So a stuffed toy would be an interactive toy or a supervised toy, whereas a solid rubber Kong ball would be a chew toy because it can't take a piece from it. Tennis balls are an interactive toy, or should be, because they have the fuzz, and that fuzz is actually extremely abrasive on the dog's teeth. Right. Remember, it's designed to hold up on a tarmac, when you're playing tennis. That stuff's extremely tough and it'll wear their teeth out. So that's not something I let the dogs work on, but it will throw them and let them retrieve them and things like that. So as far as letting your dog be semi-unattended and chewing, I'm going to look at stuff made out of rubber, nylabones, which we carry. I'm a big fan of. Here's a little tip about nylabones. You can reflavor them. Just dip them in the leftover broth in the bottom of your dinner pot and let them dry, and it's got new flavor on it.
My dogs are so simple. They don't care any. They're
exactly.
They just chomp nylabones. They're like, we love these things.
Yeah. So, but anyway, just remember that you're two different types. So,
Can I mention one thing about nylobones, George?
sure.
Yeah, pick them up off the ground.
Yes.
Stepping on a nylobone with bare feet is
No.
It's
extraordinarily
a religious experience.
It's
Yeah,
like stepping on a Lego.
Yeah.
it's awful. It's totally awful. Sorry,
Yeah,
that
and
was
let me
just
tell you, they used to make one called a Galileo, made by
Oh, I
that
know.
company. I don't
Oh,
know if they still do it.
stop.
yeah,
I
it's
got
awful.
hit in the head with one of those.
No.
Big tug. My golden was flinging it around and bounced that thing off my skull, man. And I thought I was brain damaged.
George,
I mean, that thing hurt.
That's what happened.
for a couple of reasons, and we'll just go on from there. We'll just move on from nylobones. That's a good starting point. We're not getting paid for their promotion here, by the way.
True,
So,
true. But
We
I
should
believe
be.
in them. They're good product. I don't mind
They are,
promoting
yeah.
something that's good, like
Absolutely.
Calm. So,
Yep.
But just remember, folks, that if the dog's pulling pieces from it, it becomes dangerous. You don't want to have a surgery removing some of that stuff out of their belly. Can I say one thing? One that I really am anti-toy. There are some toys that are supposedly chew toys that are made of various starches, like potato starch or corn starch.
Right.
They break very easily. If the dog swallows them, I'm experienced with this. The dog swallows them and it becomes a blockage. They do not show up on X-rays. So I had a client dog that happened to, and luckily the vet was able to see the shape of it in the X-ray, but you couldn't see it. It was shooting right through it.
Wow.
So that day forward, I kind of say no to those in any way, shape, or form.
I used to give those. I think I used to give my dog Tanner Buddha bones or something like that.
Yeah, they were
red,
called Buddha bones and some other brands, but they don't show up on X-ray. So this particular dog had bitten one in half and swallowed the bigger piece, and it got lodged in her intestines.
Yeah, it's no bueno.
And near killed the dog. So I'm not a fan of those anymore. I was at one time, but no more.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, if they're tearing it up, it's not a chew toy anymore. It's a toy where you supervise or play with or interact with them.
Yeah, very good. Jess, what are your thoughts on toys and dogs destroying them? Best way to approach that type of thing? Because
I think having the appropriate toy for the age of the dog is probably one of the most important things. I know for me, I know we're not getting anything from Nylabone, but the puppy chews, the little dinosaur ones, the blue ones with the little ridges on them, were a blessing when we first got Buckshot, because that little boy was a very mouthy. I was going to say a bad word, but we can't do that. He was extremely mouthy. So it was really nice to be able to redirect him with something like that, that was soft enough for the puppy teeth that he wasn't going to break any of the puppy teeth off. I would also sometimes take it and put it in the freezer for a little bit. So I'm a huge fan of, especially when we have a dog that's teething, of taking some of the toys and pop them in the freezer and just being able to alleviate the pressure and the tension on the gum lines. I think that's really important to do as well. If the dog's having the opportunity to work on something, it's also, are they bored? What type of activities could we doing to help get them out of that kind of like mindset where I'm trying to keep myself preoccupied. Now I'm just taking the stuffing out of something, turning it into something a little bit more productive for the dog. So.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. I really like the using the toys in the freezer. That's always great, and it's also good summertime. Summertime when it's nice and hot outside. The only thing I want to add to all of this, and then we'll move on to some of the questions that had come in here, is really the sizing of toys. It's very important for everybody to be considering. Every dog's going to have different preferences. I've seen Great Danes that they only like a really tiny toy, which is very dangerous. And I wouldn't suggest it. And I've seen tiny little dogs that really like the super big toy. So size can be interesting, but what it is that I usually look at is the safety side of things. How do we do this as safe as possible? So, if I have a dog that I'm finding is maybe destroying their toys a little bit faster, whether it's a Kong or a Nylabone or I'm a fan of the Star Mark toys. I think those are great. I think the dog toys are great. These are all real high quality, strong toys that are designed to be interactive toys, but even a dog chewing on them, they hold up pretty well. With that being said, these I lost my train of thought completely here. My my suggestion was go to the next size up. Ultimately, if you're finding the dog starting to go through them, go to the next size up. See if that makes a difference. When they can't get as much jaw pressure on that toy, sometimes they will be less likely to do damage to it. Those toys will last a little bit longer. Sometimes you need to go down in terms of the toughness of the toy. For a dog that maybe doesn't like toys very much, maybe you need to go to a softer toy to get them interested in something, depending on the dog. I know that's the opposite side of the spectrum from what the question was here, but something worth considering. So just keep that in mind. A lot of these brands that are out there that are really designed to be chew toys are going to have different levels and strengths to them. We've done a huge advertisement for Nylabone here tonight. We're going to have to talk to them about this. We ultimately suggest the puppy chews or the gumma bones. I don't know what they actually are referred to as now, but they're ultimately the rubbery one.
They're called puppy chews.
Puppy chews.
No more gumma bone.
Yeah. Okay. So they're kind of a more translucent look to them. And then you've got the next step up, which is like your traditional durables or something along those lines. And those are the white ones. And then sometimes they'd be tan or kind of yellowish, depending on the flavor. It's all nylon. So I don't really know how they figure that all out. But like, listen, we're going to make this one look like kind of mustard-like. But yeah, they also have that next level up. And, Kong has the same type of thing with their black Kong versus their red Kong. So definitely things to keep an eye on. All right, well, let's go over to one of these other questions here. Darlene had posted, and she said, my rescue dog pulls really hard on the leash, hurting me in the bargain. What can I do? Darlene, it's good to see you here again, first off. And I hope that we get to see you soon. For some reason, I think Darlene moved, or maybe she's not in the area anymore. I can't remember. But anyways, definitely remember Buster. So anyways, let's talk a little bit about what to do here. George, Jessica, what can she do right now? What would be an easy solution for her until she can actually get to getting some training, which sounds like is what she wants.
Here's one thing. Remember that the dog is not necessarily trying to pull you down the road. Your dog's trying to get to something that's interesting them, So what I try to get people to do before I can get a hold of them with, equipment and everything is when the dog's pulling, I try to get people to set themselves and stop dead cold and wait. Just wait. Let the dog pull it out a little bit. Then what will happen is the dog will eventually get frustrated and turn around and look at you. Like, when are we going here? What I tell them to do then is turn around, literally turn 180 degrees and say, let's go this way. Now the dog's behind you. And what will happen is the dog will tend to shoot past you and you stop again, lock in there, wait them out, turn around and just say, let's go. This is non-combative. And yet the dog will start figuring out very quickly the only way they're going to go where they want to go is if they offer you that loose leash. So now that's not my ideal, but it'll hold you over until we can get some equipment on the dog and some stuff that'll really help things make it easier for you. But the bottom line is if the dog is overpowering you, like it's that big a dog, you need to get in here. And let's get that taken care of for you because that's dangerous. You can be injured. But if it's a regular kind of size dog that you can handle, just literally lock them in.
George, it's not a regular size dog. I'm looking at her profile picture.
I can't see it. Yeah,
he looks like he's a good size.
Yeah, he's a good size dog.
So
I'm just assuming that that's her dog.
And am I saying her name right? Is it Delreen Boyd?
Yeah, that's
Delreen.
Buster Brown's mama.
Right. So then get in here. Yeah, so we can help you. And if you did move away, I think Andrew said you might have moved away. Let me know. I can find you somebody where you at. Like you need help. I don't want you hurt. I don't want you to hurt the dog. The dog can be injured on them heavy pulls too. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, that seems good. We were talking actually earlier this week. We did a training with our staff. Every so often we do little training workshops to just make sure that everybody's continuing to learn. And we're going through some dog handling stuff with our pet care staff. And a lot of what we were talking about was, just moving dogs around the facility, getting them from point A to point B. And most of you that have been to the facility know that although we have an amazing training team, not every single dog in our facility has been trained by our team. And quite a few of them have not had any training at all, to say the least. And that is what it is. That's just part of what we deal with. And so one of the big challenges is, teaching our staff how to handle these dogs that sometimes are, completely untrained. And some of them will go above and beyond the untrained level. It's kind of like, wow, this dog's actually really poorly behaved. And how is it that they handle those? And, the way that we do things internally in our facility, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is the best thing for everybody, but we are always focused on safety. And so we use slip leash with all of the dogs that are our facility. We do that so that we make sure that they never get off the leash. And that we ultimately never lose a dog. That's like number one priority. Number two is that slip leash, if used with the appropriate technique, can be very effective for helping to teach what it is that George just went through.
Right.
That's something that we can certainly walk you through, and how it is that you should do that. But we, again, would suggest that you just get the obedience training going, because that's ultimately the long-term solution. And we don't want to give you just a quick fix that's going to just get you through the next day or two. We would like to give you that long-term solution. George, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I was just sitting here thinking, because you had said you thought she moved away. Hey, we do virtual stuff now.
How about that?
I can demonstrate that right here in the yard or in my yard. I can do that.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and keep rolling through things. I've got a question here. It looks like a question from Jennifer. I have a senior dog, Basset mix, and a 3-year-old Beagle mix that so far seem to hate the puppy. Oh, no. Senior ignores it, Beagle growls and snaps at it. We've had the puppy for a month. We have used gates as barriers. We use crates for the dogs. We keep puppy on a leash all the time, never unsupervised. What else can we do? Puppy is just 3 months old and still teething. Great question, Jennifer. Would love to dive into this for you. I'm just going to pop this one down here. Jessica, would you like to start off on this?
Sure. Well, it sounds like they're doing a lot of the beginning sides of things with the management. So I'm going to commend Jennifer for that, for using the baby gates, the crates, especially keeping the puppy on the leash and not unsupervised, because that's usually the first area that we go to when we're discussing these situations with our families. So if we have the management side of thing under wraps, we then want to think about what is it that we can teach the other dogs to do or the puppy to do when they are learning to coexist with each other. It depends on how many handlers they have in the house, how many people that can be really committed and involved in certain moments of time. But especially with the puppy, it sounds like it's being a typical 3-month-old puppy, wanting to get attention, wanting to play, probably nipping, biting, all of the sorts, especially the older dog, not necessarily wanting to involve in it, and the poor little Beagle mix growling and snapping at the puppy. We want to make sure that we're teaching the dogs how to live appropriately with each other, and whether that means, depending on the obedience of the other dogs, maybe doing group downstays, teaching the place command, teaching fun tricks and games of recalls and sit stays. That's what's going to help, one, being able to teach the dogs what to do in those environments, but also, especially with the puppy, getting good age and size and temperament appropriate socialization.
Awesome.
Like, so important.
Yeah, absolutely. George.
Here's a fast thing they can do. Need two handlers in the living room. Everybody sits down and watches TV and literally sits there with their feet on the leashes, keeping the dogs separate, and just let them exist in the same room. And what that's going to do, and don't fuss with them, just kind of sit on the leashes and don't let it happen, is the dogs both are going to figure out that you're controlling the mood and movement of the moment, so that it's not going to be an energetic interaction every time they're together. And sometimes just that simple 30-minute program where you just sit on the dog and watch Jeopardy, both dogs close but not connected, they'll kind of learn that you're going to be calm and you're going to require them to be calm too. You don't need to tell them to settle down or nothing. They will settle down if you just don't let them get away with it. So that's something I do immediately as far as exposure goes. So that old dog figures out that puppy's not going to be messing with him, and the puppy figures out that it's not a free-for-all. So they're both going to learn something on different ends of the spectrum. But that would be the fast thing. I'd have them do it tonight, and do that every night for, maybe 30 minutes at a time. And you might find out that older dog settles down some. The older dog's trying to raise that young one. He's just trying to teach that puppy what's going to fly and what isn't going to fly in his world. And he was there first. So he technically has that right, but it's your house and he ain't writing no checks. So
Well said. Well said.
He doesn't get that opinion. You know what I mean? It's not his place. But that's what I do. So I'd have I don't know how many people in the house, but you need two. You can't do it by yourself. One person over in the chair, one person on the couch, the dogs are in the room together, and everybody's just being.
Yeah, that definitely seems like good advice. And I think almost all of us have been and lived through having dogs that really, truly dislike each other.
Oh, yes.
It is a painful experience. I mean, it is not an enjoyable way to live. And it can be very stressful because you've got to kind of always be on top of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like she's in that position right now, which is good from the standpoint of the dogs not actually really hating each other. It doesn't sound like that's the case. Maybe they just start communicating and trying to set some boundaries right now is what it sounds like to me.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But with that being said, because that's the stage of the game that you're at, I would almost treat it as if the dogs hated each other.
Oh, of course.
I would be very careful about ever having them unattended with each other, making sure that you're getting to monitor and manage every single interaction right now is going to be mission critical, you being successful here. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be really important for you to do that. So great question. Very good question. Got some other stuff coming in here. Jennifer's has some feedback. She says, even with the star mark collar, my pup pulled so hard that he is basically walking on his back paws. This really only happens when I pick him up from daycare. Well, Jennifer, I'm not sure what to tell you here. I think that your dog's very happy to see you, which is good. But it sounds like he's trying to ultimately get a certain result. And so what I would be I'd ask myself first here is, what is the result that he's looking to achieve by walking on his back paws? So when he walks on his back paws and pulls and drags with the star mark, what happens after that? When he gets to you, does the pressure on the star mark go away? Does he get attention? Because if that's the case, then ultimately we're training him inadvertently to push through the pressure of the star mark collar because he knows a little pain is going to get me a big reward. And so that's a big part of the problem that we see in a lot of cases. But George and Jess, if you'd like to maybe talk about what needs to happen here so that we can work through this together.
Yeah, well, it's a tough one in this, in the line of work we're in. staff has to get the dogs in a timely fashion to the client. And sometimes, that forces them to almost let those dogs, pull them out to the client. In my perfect world, our tech would stop cold and wait that dog out until it gave me my loose leash before he could get to mama. But that's not always practical, when everybody's had a hard day at work and they're trying to go home and they're trying to get their dog. And then, of course, and Jennifer ain't the only one, they greet that puppy like crazy when they see him, because it makes us feel good to have something that happy to see us, and that feeds that too. So she needs to get that tough love. Well, I'm not saying tough love, but let me tell you what would be better. Instead of greeting the dog, grabbing that leash and heading for the car, getting the car and going home. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that whole greeting ritual, because that's what it is. It's a ritual. The dog learns to pull down the aisle, get to mama. Mama pays. And I'm not blaming Jennifer. This, I see this all day long. Makes me nuts. But, but it's a ritual. And the ritual has to change somehow. Okay? We can't expect our kennel people or, our lodging staff to train every dog that they deal with. There's hundreds of them a day, right? We can't do that. We can do little things, but we can't do that. But on the other side of that, when the dog's released, there's an adrenaline dump, there's a dopamine dump, there's an endorphin dump. It's basically heroin, when they greet their owners. And the owners are having just as much dopamine dumped in their body too, because it's a happy moment. But that is the big payoff for pulling like a nut.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Also, Jess, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll add, because Jennifer and Bailey, they come to a lot of things at DogiZone. So they do doggy daycare, they do our play academy, they did a day camp, they're in the university program. So they're like the overall aspect of DogiZone. And if you remember, several months ago on another Ask the Doggy Expert Live, we were having the opposite issue of when Jennifer would bring Bailey into the facility, Bailey would want to pull into the facility. Bailey would get overexcited and very worked up. So part of it, we would have her do the sit on the dog exercise, work a little bit of like attention and recall when she got to the facility, allowing the dog to calm down and settle. So we might consider doing the opposite at pickup. Okay, suggest doing the opposite at pickup, because now that we've kind of I don't want to say we fixed it, but we've been able to manage the drop-off aspect of things. The pickup now seems like it's exhibiting a couple of worrisome behaviors as far as like the overexcitability. So that might be a consideration for Jennifer as well. And if any of us are ever, like when you're in class or in between things, we're happy to grab me when I'm walking in between classes. I'd love to touch base with you about that. I love it.
Awesome. Let's dive in. We have a couple more comments and questions that come in here. Aside from Kong, Go Nuts dog toys are very tough and adorable. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Always looking for suggestions. In fact, I'd love it if anybody who's on here, if you could just type into the comment bar for us, and please let us know what dog toys are you most happy with. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff in the next upcoming months. And I think that you would be really, really happy if you made some comments to us about this, because I think you'll like what we're going to be doing here. I can't get into the details of it now, but any ideas for toys that you think are high quality, we want to know about them. Jean asks, can you please address the toxic algae at Lake Needwood and Lake Frank? Please warn people this can kill and make your dog sick in hours. Thanks. 100% Jean. Thank you so much for commenting here. And I'm happy to take a moment to talk about this because I grew up, pretty much backing up to Lake Frank. So I used to take my dogs and walk them back there all the time when I was first getting started. I remember when I was first learning how to use an electronic collar, I'd always go to Lake Frank because they had a dam there. And many of you that have dogs and go there know that that was a place that used to be kind of an unofficial dog park. And I would take my dog into the fenced-in part of the dam because I didn't trust him and practice my e-collar training with him there. And ended up stopping going there over time because of this algae. And it's been an issue there for years, and it blooms, especially, spring and summer. And same thing over at Lake Needwood. I have a friend who actually lost a dog there as well. So yeah, if you're in the Rockville area, if you're going to be taking your dogs swimming, you want to get them wet, I would tell you just don't go to these places. If you have a dog that really likes water, just find a different place to go because they really are dangerous. There's a lot of neighborhoods that ultimately surround these lakes, and there's a lot of pesticides and things like that are going on to these yards. And with the amount of development in Montgomery County and in the area, that's put an excessive amount of stormwater runoff into these lakes, which is causing these algae blooms to be really nasty and fatal. So please, yes, be careful while you're out there. Let's see here. Amy is coming in for training with George next month. I'm still in the area. Oh, she didn't move.
Good. All right.
Well, we'll be looking to seeing Delreen Boyd here soon.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
We'll fix that. Don't you worry, Delreen. We'll fix that.
Is the water that flows down Beach Drive contaminated as well? That's a great question. And I would tell you that I don't know the answer to that 100%. But what I can tell you is I used to ride my bike from Lake Frank down the trail that is Rock Creek that does, I believe, flow to the to that water on Beach Drive. So I would be willing to bet that it is. Because it's flowing water, there may not be as much algae there, and the water may be cleaner by the time it gets to that point. But I'll be honest with you, you just got to be really cautious. And if you're unsure, I would just go ahead and put a pause on it until you're sure. There are a few places. In fact, there's a place out in Potomac. If you really want your dog to swim, we have a couple of clients. I haven't personally been there. I can't personally vouch for them, but I know that we've had some clients go to the Dog Aquatic Center there, I think, to get their dogs some swim time. I've heard good things, I think. That's been positive. Yeah. So.
She's a longtime client of mine for 20, 30 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think you need to know all that.
Yeah, she actually came in for some training a while back. I'll speak to Beach Drive. If it's rolling down the road, i.e. Beach Drive, you've got oil, transmission fluid, gasoline, hydrocarbons, and everything else going down with that water too. If you wouldn't reach down and drink it, I don't know that I'd be letting my dog play in it.
That's awesome. I mean, that's it. Bottom line. There you go. Enough said. I was just reading a comment here from Jennifer. I don't know if it was actually a question in there or not, so I apologize if I think she was just commenting on something from earlier here. So let's see here. I want to see if we have any other questions that came in. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into some of the other questions that we had submitted earlier. But it's already 7:45.
What happened?
We already ran out of time here.
Oh, come on, guys.
I'm game. It's still raining.
Yeah. Let's just answer any final questions that we got here. I think Rachel might have one here. My dog gets so excited when we go anywhere and anytime. I put the car in park and he barks like crazy. I've tried parking and sitting there with no destination and he still barks every time. Suggestions. Also, we love calling. I like that. Thank you for that. Yes, that's great. There is ultimately, I got to figure out what the reward is here for the dog. One of the things that I remember George teaching me just like 15, 16 years ago when I was just learning, but I remember this, George. I don't remember everything, but I remember a good amount, was that you have to figure out what is the dog barking for, like what is that root cause. You got to really understand that to be able to fix it. So, George, why don't you talk about this?
Okay,
Because
first of all, dogs never bark for no reason. There's always a triggering event. Okay, it's audible, it's visual, or there's a payoff for actually making the noise. My guess is when we're dealing with the car, that always has probably something happy going on. He comes out the car, y'all play, go walking or whatever. In the case where sitting and waiting him out, I'm guessing you're probably not waiting long enough, but that's just me. I would recommend maybe some type of an interrupter in this case. Now, I'm not a huge fan of bar collars. They're useful in certain circumstances, but I'm a big fan of these pet correctors or the doggy don'ts that we use to interrupt the incessant barkers. So basically, it's a can of air. You can purchase it right here at DogiZone. He barks, I'd spray the air. It makes a nice loud noise, and they start putting, there's a negative for barking at that point. Okay, so your dog won't burn fuel on something that doesn't bear fruit or produces something they don't want more of. Either one of those, and you're going to solve you're going to get through the problem. So you might want to try, they're not that expensive, try a pet corrector, and when he barks, just spray it. You don't have to spray the dog. You don't want to shoot him in the face or anything. And see if that doesn't interrupt it. And then we're not getting out of the car unless you're quiet. And I'm that guy that'll sit here for 3 hours to prove it. So we ain't getting out this car when you're making noise. Most people don't have that level of patience or tenacity, but that's what it is. There's a payoff, and I'm guessing it's when that door opens. That's the payoff. So if you can't deal with the payoff, you have to add a negative consequence. You got to pick it. That's simple science.
Yeah, makes sense. Jess, do you want to add anything to that?
Not anything other than reiterating, figuring out what the root cause of with it. I know with Vinny, he's an overexcited little bully breed dog who just is over exuberant. He loves life, which is one of the things I love about him. George, he's the one with the big giant.
He's the one with that big face.
I love him so much. I would take him home if I was allowed to. But with certain moments, we have to just think about like just being patient with him. And it seems like the trigger is literally putting the car in park.
Yep.
And motion is fine. The park pause. Is it the seatbelt? Like, what's the real trigger there? Is it putting it in park? Is it taking the seatbelt? Is it the keys? So once we can really figure out what the trigger and what the root cause of, then everything will start to fall into place. Rachel, we will see you in class this week. I know you'll be there.
Sounds like you're going to get
He comes to DogiZone and gets excited, and she lets him come see us.
Oh no! Don't take the reward away.
Yeah.
Dog training's the reward.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah. So when I guess you'll see Vinny before I, Jess. Why don't you show them a pet corrector?
Yeah, I will. Andrew, Jennifer Alfonso had an interesting question up towards the top. Did you see it?
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking, to be honest, I was looking for a question mark and I didn't see one. And I was trying to focus on like 3 things at the same time. But now I know she had a question and I just need to read it. So Armstrong has pretty good obedience, trick, agility, and rally experience. His biggest issue besides squirrels, which is getting better with daily exposure. His main issue is humping other dogs when overstimulated. He will respond to my correction and redirection of doing another action. It just hasn't faded, which I hoped it would. At my house, it's about once a week. Any suggestions? I give a lot of redirection or a correction, no humping or down, etc. Sadly, my other 2 are mellow fellows, and I ruled out the medical issues with the vet. So, yeah. That's a problem. And just so you know, Jennifer, you're not the only one. In fact, I had the same question. And Jess is laughing really hard because right before we got on this call, I said, I'm submitting a question.
I'm going to cry.
And you did it for me, so I didn't have to. And so, because actually I brought my 2 dogs with me to the office today. They haven't been coming to the office here recently. And so I brought Lily and Foxy, and Lily's 6-7-year-old spayed pit bull mix, and my yellow lab Foxy is about 3, and she's not spayed. And Lily gets really, really jealous of her, it seems, when Foxy's getting any type of interaction or attention. And so Lily will mount her and try to hump her. And it's usually only when we're in the presence of a lot of excitement or other people. So, George, what do you have for me and Jennifer? Because I don't know what to do. All right. I need the most expert trainer on this to help me through it.
First of all, it's usually adrenaline based, okay? Meaning the dog's jacked. Okay? So it's adrenaline based. It's also not sexual. It's actually a dominance display.
Yes.
It's a display behavior. It's communication. I said before with the other response, you got to interrupt and redirect. Now, if your interruption isn't big enough to stop the behavior, you need to go bigger. I'm a big fan for something like that. If the flooring can handle it, water, but not a spray bottle. I'm talking about a glass of water. Right? Right there. Okay? If your floor permits. Now, if that's not possible, you're going to have to get the dog you have to interrupt the dog either with a loud noise, again, pet corrector, doggy don't, your voice. I can bellow, so I can usually stop it. Then you have to redirect the dog into something that's totally counter. So I'm going to out the dog, and I'm going to plant that dog. I'm going to sit on it. I'm going to make it do a stay. If he doesn't have the obedience, I'm going to put my foot on the leash, and I'm going to park it until that adrenaline is done. And just, okay? So what happens? You start doing that, your world shuts down. You don't have to beat them. You don't have to, it's not a mean thing. They just can't do anything. It shuts off all activity. Okay? If that continues, sooner or later, one of them other dogs is going to decide this ain't going to be dominant, and you're going to have a dog fight.
All right.
Okay? Yeah, because they're only going to take that so much. You got to interrupt, which means interrupting the behavior, making it stop. If that means grabbing a leash and pulling them off, then that's it. And then I'm going to park them until they are cool and say, okay, now you may go. That's a tough problem because it's adrenaline based. When a dog's in full adrenaline like that, they're not present of mind. They're running on instinct. So that's why you're getting the redirect. He's not present. Is he biting on the redirect? Did she say that? Or
no.
Okay.
She's trying to redirect him. He's not redirecting.
Oh, I see. Okay. So
Yeah.
I said redirect. I didn't know she's trying to stop me. She's around taking a
Redirect
shot.
fighting.
I
Yeah.
see where you're coming from, but I think that I don't know if it is adrenaline based with her based on that. If the
Yeah.
Do you think that's the case, George?
Well, it could be a relationship issue between what's the dog humping?
Another dog. So she said that he'll respond to the corrections and redirection of doing another action.
Okay. But then he keeps doing it in the future.
So there hasn't been like a one event learning to make it stop.
Right. So then that redirection or that interruption has to be punishing then. Meaning the dog doesn't want to bring it upon himself again. Doesn't have to hurt, but it has to be aversive enough where the dog says, nope, when I do this, it brings this, and I don't want that. Again, a cold glass of water works usually. Or we used to use a hose back in the day. We'd hose them down.
Get a super soaker.
Yeah, exactly. But if that's not possible, you got carpet or whatever, then perhaps separation of attention and presence. So you interrupt it and park his butt in the crate for a while. Isolation's a pretty big, heavy punisher. if you get banished away from, attention and affection and presence. So maybe stop it, interrupt it, and instead of redirecting them into a sit or something, put them in the crate for a while, let them stew. So he learns that makes him go away. You can try something like that.
That's awesome. Well, look, we have run out of time here, folks. And so I know that there were a couple of questions left in here. And we will ultimately go ahead and see if we can get these answered for you on the next call. As you all know, we are moved this to once a month. So our next call, we will be in September. And so that being said, hopefully between now and then, you keep an eye on what DogiZone is doing, because today we got to announce some really, really amazing news. Congratulations to both of you two. Honestly, like, you guys have been at DogiZone since before we were DogiZone. And I just am actually curious. I'm going to interview you two really quickly, if it's okay. I just am curious, being that you've been with us for this amount of time and you've kind of been through all of it, what does it feel like to be on the, to have DogiZone be on the Inc. 5000 list?
I am proud. I am honored to be part of such a glorious team. We have definitely had our ebbs and flows with everything. I mean, when we started, before we came to Rockville, when we were still up in Urbana, we didn't know we were just kind of jumping in feet first, and we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. But year after year, we just continue to crush it. We have such a great leadership team at this point. We're doing so much to build everyone in the team, new employees, employees who've been here for a long time. We're trying to build everybody up and just offering that good experience of growth for them. Me personally, I'm beyond proud to be part of such a great organization. We have people ask us all the time, is this, a franchise? Is it a chain? Are there multiple locations? And I'm like, no, it's one just now. So it's just such a good feeling. I love being along for the ride.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jessica. Certainly appreciate everything that you've done. George, how about you?
Well, I'm going to go a little more personal. I always pride myself on bringing young trainers up and helping them and making them succeed whenever I can. I am damn proud of you, young man. Can't tell you how much. I couldn't be any prouder if I was your father. I mean, so I just want to say that to you straight up. Of course, I love working with the team, but I am constantly amazed, and this is why you have my undying loyalty, at what you've been able to put together from nothing. So there you go. That's how I feel about the whole thing. I was like, yeah, we're there. We're helping you. We know we're part of it, but you're the brains, buddy. I'm the brawn, So there you go. That's where I'm at with it. Very proud of you.
Thank you to both of you. And, thank you to just all of our team members who ultimately are current team members, but even previous team members who are no longer with the company for whatever reason. All of our clients. I mean, we have so many of you joining us on these, Facebook and YouTube lives as we do these. And we know how much, our clients appreciate what we do, and we feel that, and we just are extremely thankful to have appreciative clients. Not every business gets to have clients that are very appreciative, and we are very blessed and grateful to have that. So thank you all, everybody. If I can't mention everybody, but employees, clients, coaches, mentors, friends, family, everybody that's just been supportive to helping to build DogiZone. Just huge thank you to everybody. We hope that you all have enjoyed tonight. And if you found some value in this, we'd love it if you gave us a like, shared this with your friends. And we will be running this again in about a month. And so if you have questions, feel free to send them to us. We'll do our best to get them all answered for you on our next call. Hope you guys have a better than great evening and enjoy the rest of what's left of your summer. Take care.